So right now, lots of us are finding ourselves working from home, and for some of us that's a new experience. It's the first time that we've had to do that, and so what I wanted to do in this video is share with you some tips and tricks about how to make that working from home thing work, how to be more productive at home, how to be less distracted, how to get more done when we're sat trying to work at our kitchen table at this unprecedented time. Hi, it's Andrew Burns, founder of runningtokeepup.com, here with you again. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. As you know by now, it's my mission to help you become more effective. And by becoming more effective, what I can help you to do is to achieve what you need to achieve in less time. We're going to find a way to give you more discretionary time. What are you going to do with that time? Well, it's up to you really. Maybe you're going to do more work. Maybe that extra time is going to allow you to get more done. Maybe you're going to start that side hustle that's been nagging away at your brain, but you just haven't had time to get it underway. Maybe you're going to spend that time with your loved ones, and at this time in the world, who doesn't want more of that? Maybe you're just going to sit in the sun and drink white wine. I don't know. Whatever it is, if you want to find more time to do whatever it is you want to do subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that alert button so you get alerted whenever I post something new. Go and do that for me right now. So working from home can be a challenge if you've never done it before. Even if you've done it for a long time, there are lots of pitfalls. I wonder whether this has ever happened to you, whether you have got to lunchtime and discovered that your kitchen is sparkling clean, but your boss is still waiting for that report. I wonder whether you have suddenly found yourself with all the vegetables for dinner prepped and realise that your client is still waiting for that quotation that you promised. I wonder whether you have not managed to finish that blog post that you've been working on, but all the laundry is put away. Well, look, me too. I first started working from home on a regular basis about 20 years ago. Prior to that, I'd been a bench scientist, by which I mean I was sat in a laboratory at a bench doing real experiments, and to a certain extent that was a much simpler time for me. The work was obvious, it was in front of me, it was pretty straightforward. And then suddenly I was having to work from home on a regular basis, and it was just me and a computer and a phone sat at my kitchen table, and I didn't know where to start. And what I discovered was that when I was working from home, it was really easy for me to procrastinate on things that I would have had no problem doing in an office. And it started to get me to think that maybe I was undisciplined, maybe I was unfocused, maybe I needed a manager breathing down my neck to get some of this stuff done. Maybe working from home, maybe it wasn't for me. But then I started to learn about habit formation, and everything started to become clear, and I started to figure out strategies that I could use to make sure that I was getting my work done while I was sat at the table at home. Working from home started to become a joy. I could see the benefits of it. It was a privilege. It was not just a hindrance to my work, not a hindrance to getting my work done. It was actually moving me forward at a significantly faster rate. And this is something that you can achieve as well. So if you're struggling to work from home, what I want to tell you is this isn't about a lack of will, as some people will tell you it is. It isn't a lack of focus. You're not unfocused. Some people are going to tell you to just get your head down and get it done, and they don't know what the heck they're talking about. So ignore those comments. I hear it all the time, and I know I'll get comments on this video as well that tell me that there's no substitute for hard work, like somehow I'm advocating laziness, and that couldn't be further from the truth, and the people that write those kinds of comments are missing the point. So you know how to work hard because you've done it before. You know how to focus because you've done it before. You know how to bring your will to bear on the thing that you want to achieve because you've done it before. So what's different now? What's different about working from home? Well, it's the fact that you're at home, isn't it? That's the thing. Working from home is difficult because we're at home, and that isn't where we typically work. So look, our homes are stuffed full of habits, and all habits are built on a similar kind of framework. There's a cue that triggers the habit. There's the routine, the habit itself, if you like, the behaviour of that habit, and then there's some kind of a reward at the end of it, and it's the reward that drives this cycle round and causes these things to become habitual and causes them to become automatic. So, for example, when you're at home, the cue to wash the dishes is the pile of plates and mugs and cutlery that need washing. The routine, wash those dishes, and the reward is that sparkling, clean kitchen with everything in its place. The cue to put away laundry is the pile of washed but unfolded laundry that needs putting away. And the routine is to deal with that, to address that, to fold that laundry and to put it away. And the reward you get, I think, as you slide the door shut on that last neatly folded in a Marie Kondo kind of way, that last pair of socks folded in that way, that's your reward. Even if that reward is fairly short-lived because there's something else that it suddenly occurs to you that you're meant to be doing, like completing the report that we've already discussed. So those habits are good for us in our home life, aren't they? Otherwise we'd be drowning under unfolded laundry and dirty dishes. And we don't want to lose those habits because, again, we'll be drowning under all of that stuff. But equally, those habits become procrastination when we're trying to work from home. So we can't get rid of those habits, and we need somehow to control them to stop them becoming procrastination. So what do we need to do? What we need is new habits that lead us to work. We need to build habits that tell us now is the time that we're working from home. We're not just living at home, okay? So one of those habits is to prepare for work in the same way that we've always prepared for work, even if we were then getting in the car and driving to an office or driving to a laboratory or driving to a factory or whatever it is, wherever it is that our normal place of work is. So how do we do that? Well, if your day always begins with you leaping out of bed, jumping in the shower, having a shave, putting on makeup, no gender stereotypes, you you do you, but whatever your routine is, still do that. So I used to work with a guy who would put on a shirt and a suit and a tie, even if he was working from home. Now that's pretty extreme, but those were his cues. The suit and the tie were his cues that now it was time to go to work, even if work was sat at the table in his dining room. So find that cue, get ready for work, get yourself into the mind space for work. Now, you're going to say to me, what about Sally? Sally works in her pajamas with the dog at her feet and she gets loads done. Let me tell you about Sally. Sally is a freak. Or Sally's been doing this for a long time and she's got her own routines. Either way, you're not Sally. Find yourself a routine that's going to lead you into work. If you trick yourself into thinking that you can work in your pajamas, what you will find is that the everyday habits of your normal home life will lead you away from your work, and that's the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. So, dress for success, prime yourself for a working day, build a routine that leads you into work. Another thing that you can do is to change your viewpoint. So if you're going to work at your kitchen table, don't sit in the same seat that you always sit in. Don't sit in the seat that you sit in to eat. Move around the table, sit in a different corner, sit somewhere else. Change that perspective. That change of perspective is going to be another cue that it's time to work. This is the seat that I work in, that I sit in when I'm working. It's so subtle, but it can mean the difference between getting your work done and getting distracted and wandering away. Change the perspective, sit somewhere else. What we'll also find is that we are drawn away to our favourite waste of time, whatever your favourite waste of time is, whether that's reading a book, whether that's playing a video game, whether that's watching something on Netflix. And what I'm going to recommend to you is that you make some time for that waste of time. Schedule it into your calendar. Schedule yourself half an hour every day, not at a lunchtime, not at a break time, some time that feels a little bit like a guilty pleasure. Give yourself half an hour to go and do that waste of time. And this small concession will help stop you from taking bigger liberties. So you go and do your waste of time for an hour, for half an hour. You're very strict about it. You keep to that timetable time. You go and play your video game, or you go and read your book. You feel a little bit guilty, but it's a good guilt. And then you come back and you get on with your work, and you're able to focus much more easily. So schedule some time for that, for your favorite waste of time. I think that's a huge thing. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you need time to think. Okay, so here's what it could look like. An email comes in, you know what you need to do. You need to reply to that email. That's the task, but you're not sure what you want to say yet. And so you think to yourself, I need to think about that. I know, I'll do the dishes while I'm thinking about this email. You'll do the dishes, your dishes will be sparkling, but you'll find that you haven't actually figured out what you want to say in that email. And you could kid yourself that doing the dishes didn't take long enough to fully get to the end of that thinking. But actually the truth is, what you think about while you're doing the dishes is doing the dishes. If you've got something to think about, actively engage with the thinking. Take a pen and a piece of paper and mind map or brainstorm or free write and get to the nub of what you want to say in that email. But don't trick yourself into thinking you're going to go and do something else while you think about this, because you won't think about it. What you'll think about is the thing that you go off and do. The dishes, the laundry, the cleaning the bathroom. I don't know what it is, mowing the lawn. Don't do that. Engage with your thinking. One of the things about working from home right now is that it's probably not a solitary occupation for you. The kids are off school, they're probably around somewhere. Your spouse is probably trying to find their working from home mojo as well. And what you've got to accept is that there are going to be distractions while you're trying to work from home. The kids are going to need you. Your spouse is going to come and run things past you. How do you avoid these distractions? The answer is you don't. Distractions are going to happen. The kids are going to want to drink. Your spouse is going to have a question to ask. The postman is going to knock on the door. If you're lucky, you're going to get a delivery of groceries. distractions are going to happen. You cannot avoid them. There isn't any way to avoid them, particularly when everyone's trying to get stuff done from home at the moment. So you can't avoid the distractions. So what's your job? Your job is to figure out a way to get back on track, to get back to work, to get back to productivity once those distractions have occurred. Once you've got the kids a drink, or once you've talked about the car insurance with your spouse. How do you get back on track? How do you get back in the groove? So here's what my habit looks like. I sit back in the chair, in the specific chair that I do my work from, not the same one that I eat my meal from. Sit back in the chair. I set on my watch a timer for 1 minute. And during that 1 minute, I breathe deeply and I let go of whatever the distraction was. And at the end of that 1 minute, I set an intention for what I'm going to do next. Next, I'm going to reply to that email. Set my intention, and then I celebrate. I give a little fist pump, a little internal celebration. Sometimes it's a bigger celebration, but I'm English. I'm generally not that effusive. But sometimes things get away from me. All of that can sound a little bit silly, and probably all of that looks a little bit silly while I'm running through that routine. I'm sat in a corner, breathing deeply, and then out of nowhere, I give a little fist bump, and then I carry on working. And it's easy not to go through that little routine, but that habit pays dividends. That habit gets me back on track really quickly, gets me back on track in 60 seconds. There's no kind of sat in front of my computer, scrolling through emails, scratching my head, looking out the window, wondering what it was that I was working on. In 60 seconds, I am back on track. The other thing that's really easy to miss out of that little routine is the fist bump. But I'm going to tell you that the celebration, the emotion that you imbue a habit with is what drives that habit, is what grooves that habit into your brain. If you don't go through that celebration process, if you don't celebrate the new habit, what you find is it doesn't stick. And so I really encourage you is to really congratulate yourself at the end of some of these habits, just to let yourself know that this is working, that this is good for you, that this is something that you want to repeat. And you'll find that those habits groove themselves into your brain much more easily if at the end of each one, you really celebrate them. It's silly, I know, but give it a try, it really works. So, in conclusion, that is how you're going to be successful working from home. We don't want to stop the habits that are part of your home life, because you're going to need them again. You're going to need to get the dishes washed. You're going to need to get the kids bathed. You're going to need to put that laundry away. But for the time when you're meant to be working, you need to ignore those habits, ignore the cues that lead you down those paths, because those paths are procrastination when you're trying to work. And the only way to resist those habits is to build new ones. So what we want is habits that lead you into your work, that keep you working, and that can bring you back to work when you skip out of the groove. So I hope you find this useful. I hope you put some of these ideas into practice. I hope that they enable you to get much more work done while we're all working from home at this crazy time. If you did find some benefit here, I would ask you to like liberally, to share widely, to subscribe to the channel wherever you're consuming this content. If you're on YouTube, hit the alert button so that you are informed every time I put a new piece of content up. And all that leaves me to say is go and be productive, be the most effective that you can, and I will see you here next time.